What's up, lads? Couch Pundits here. We're just going to have a quick preview of the final day of the season. So on Sunday, every match, 10 matches will be played. Every team will play all at 4 o'clock. So we're just going to kind of look at what's relevant going into it, being the fight for European football, and where each team stands prior to the matches this Sunday. So we're gonna go in chronological order of like where they sit in the league. So Chelsea are in third on 67 points, 23 goal difference. Obviously, this is your team. How do you feel going into this final day?
I feel confident enough. Obviously, like the main thing is, like we've got the points on the board. Like at the end, even if all's equal, Chelsea are going through. Do you know what I mean? Like if all teams win or all teams lose, so you're not relying on other teams winning really. So that's the main thing really. Like, and I suppose no one really is in that position though, are they? Like Leicester, Liverpool, or Chelsea.
Yeah,
But no, I am confident enough in Chelsea to get it done. Like I do think Villa is an easy game, but at the same time, Grealish hasn't. They've been useless the last few months, but that's only because they don't have Grealish. Like I know Grealish has been on the bench a bit recently, so would be surprised if he definitely. I'll be surprised if he doesn't start this. I know Villa like probably don't need to risk it and stuff, but I think they'd want them to get a few minutes in the league before the Euros at least. Like it'd be kind of difficult going into the Euros having not played since March or whatever. But no, in terms of Chelsea, I'm not really worried to be honest. Like obviously like famous last words, but I'm confident enough. Like Villa isn't that bad of a game. Like I was definitely a lot more nervous for the Leicester game, but I think we should be good to get to the top four in this, and not that it takes the pressure off for the Champions League final, because at the end of the day it's a Champions League final, but at least you're not going into that thinking like if Chelsea don't get this, like the Champions League final, like it's obviously huge no matter what, but it's literally like make or break. Like your season is either terrible or unbelievable. Like, do you know what I mean? Because obviously that has
yeah,
implications then next summer with Champions League and next season with Champions League and into the summer in terms of transfers. Because like these games have such, and like obviously this goes without saying, but like they have such massive implications for all clubs. Like if let's say Liverpool lose on the last day of the Palace and it ends up being Leicester and Chelsea, like that has such an impact on, like maybe Salah doesn't want to stay, or like a big player who Liverpool might want to go for won't want to come into Liverpool, that kind of thing. And it's the same with all the clubs. So that's massive. But I think I'd rather be a Chelsea fan right now than a Liverpool or a Leicester fan, just for that reason, just that we have the points on the board. Like,
yeah, that makes sense. So as you said, it gets against Villa. Grealish started against Spurs
oh,
two
do you?
nights
Didn't
ago.
know that.
2 nights ago, yeah, he started against Spurs, which Villa beat Spurs in Spurs 2-1. I think the main reason why you were saying about Grealish starting, that he might start, is fans are back in the stadiums. It's in Villa Park, and I mean, who knows? It could be his last game. I don't think it'll be his last game in Villa, but it could be. He's gone to that stage in
Yeah.
his career where he can definitely move on to basically any club he wants to. Um, and as their captain, I'd imagine that he will play in front of the fans as like not a farewell forever, but definitely a farewell for the season. Like,
Yeah.
and the fact that they beat Spurs, it's going him a good thing, good form. And I mean, like they were really bad without him, but they looked. They convincingly beat Spurs. Like it was 2-1, but I was texting you saying it could have been 6-1 at half time, like easily.
Yeah.
And anyways, moving on to the next team, Liverpool. So this is my team, 66 points in fourth with 24 goal difference after beating Burnley last night. Going in playing Crystal Palace. So this is when my overthinking comes into it. So uh, it was a great win last night against Burnley. Not just a win against Burnley away in front of Burnley's crowd. Like it was so weird. I know you didn't watch it, but when Firmino scores just before halftime, like you could have heard a penny drop. Like, because there's no Liverpool fans, so like, so you could actually
Yeah.
hear the players on the pitch like screaming, yeah, and all, where you couldn't hear anything because the Burnley fans, like in the crowd for like the whole game, other than when Liverpool score. It just dropped. But yeah, it was a good win, obviously for goal difference as well. You know, putting them 4 ahead of Leicester. But Crystal Palace at home, so obviously fans are there. That's always good. But the last team to beat Liverpool in Anfield with fans, okay, Crystal Palace.
Didn't even know that.
Roy Hodgson's last day as a football manager ever, okay, is against Liverpool. Probably the club that shafted him the most in his career, sacking him after 3 months. I actually went to
Breche Eze is out for ages though.
Yeah, I know. I'm gassing things up here. But like, I was lucky enough to attend a Roy Hodgson win for Liverpool. I think there was only about 4 of them, so I can say I went to that. But yeah, I think like Crystal Palace, they're kind of like Burnley. Like they kind of thrive off being the away team that are just willing to torment. Like Burnley gave Liverpool a good fight in the first half. Like they had a few good chances with that ball over the top. And I think Crystal Palace probably do the exact same, like this, you know, playing like a rugby team, just 10 men in a straight line and like you up front or Zaha up front or something. But yeah, fun fact here. The last time a team dropped out of top 4 on the last day of the season was in 2005. And guess what team it was?
Liverpool.
No, Spurs. Trick question. Team got food poisoning the night before and lost to. Team got food poisoning the night before off a dodgy lasagna. Look it up, I swear to God. And
what a stat! It went nowhere.
Lost to West Ham. But yeah, Liverpool gone into the final day against Palace at home. First time. Liverpool haven't lost this year at home with fans in the stadium as well, which is another kind of thing. They beat Spurs.
It's been about 3 games of fans in the stadium at most.
Firmino scored a header in the last minute and sprinted the length of the pitch to celebrate at the cup. But yeah, I'm confident in Liverpool. Quietly confident, you know. It is Palace. As I said, they're a team that just love an away game. They get loads of results, like against City and Liverpool over the last few years away. But yeah, quietly confident, especially with the form that Liverpool have gone in on. I think they're actually gone by on form the last 10 games, top of the Premier League. So there's that.
Yeah.
Fifth.
They should definitely win it. Like.
Yeah. 5th, Leicester. They kind of bottled it a little bit, didn't they?
Yeah, I know. Like, I was saying this the other day. Like, if you asked Leicester in January, let's say, would they rather top 4 or an FA Cup? I think they'd definitely say an FA Cup. But that's not an excuse to lose top 4, because it does feel like they've definitely kind of capitulated this year and last year at the final hurdle in terms of top 4. It's like both times around like the halfway stage, like they were honestly about, I don't know what it was this year, but I remember last year was definitely about 10 or 15 points at least clear of whoever was 5th when they were in 2nd and 3rd and stuff.
Yeah.
And then this year is the same. Like they were, like it always felt like it was City, United, Leicester, and then like a huge drop, and then like Spurs, Chelsea, Liverpool, whoever, they're all around kind of similar points. But yeah, no, Leicester just dropped off again. It's just, I think it's a lot down to Vardy. Like, I'm not like scapegoating him or anything, but like 1 goal in his last 18 games, like that's so poor. Like, and the thing is, he did that last season as well. Like, I think last season he scored 17 in his first 19. I think he scored something like 18 in his first 20 or something like that this year. I know it was definitely 17 and 19 last year in the first games, and then scored like 1 or 2 in the next whatever 19 games in the season. And same with this, as I said, they're 1 in 18. Yeah. It's so bad. Like that's obviously a huge thing to it. But then again, I think they haven't been as bad this year because they just had Iheanacho this year. It's just gone on unbelievable run of form since the start of March. Like he's top scorer in the league since then. I think he's got 10 goals. Like, and that's in. I think he had 6. I think he had 17 in his last 19 games. I think, which is unbelievable. Obviously,
yeah.
Scoring that goal against Chelsea tonight as well. But I think they kind of have messed it up a bit. Like they were in such a pole position, and the fact they've let it come back to this point, it's just not good enough, really. Like, I know, to be fair, they have had so many injuries. Like Madison cannot stay fit. Like he's been so poor since he's come back from that injury. in the last few weeks. But as I said before, I don't really want to slay him too much. Like his hip injuries are just that recurring. They're just so bad. Like he's been constantly in the last few years. Obviously, James Justin out for months. Harvey Barnes out for months. They were two of the best like left winger and left back in the league at that stage. Like, so Youngchu's been out. Ricardo Pereira's only really coming back into fitness now. Like, I can go on and on. There's so many players, but
Yeah.
so I do have to say that. But then again, I suppose a lot of other teams, like you could say the same about Liverpool. And I know we're talking
Yeah.
about Liverpool; they were title challengers, or title winners. I mean, Leicester weren't near that level, but still, I'm just kind of saying that, kind of making a bit of an excuse for them. Like it's not an excuse really, because they have been absolutely like demolished by injuries this year. But at the same time, I do still feel like they have done very well to get to this point, considering they don't have the squad like a Chelsea or a City or whatever to deal with those kind of injuries. Like Chelsea have had a good few injuries this year and they've still kind of managed well with it. Liverpool, oh, not really at centre back obviously, but in other positions they still do have decent depth. But yeah, I just think that's kind of what's costing them. Like I think I was saying this a few weeks ago. I definitely don't think it's a coincidence that you have Chelsea and City in the final. Like you could argue that they're they're the two best squads in Europe.
Yeah, I'd
I'm not
probably agree
saying
with
like
that.
two best. Well, City you'd probably say would be the best team as well, but like the options Chelsea have, like if you honestly like wiped out their first 11, you've still got a 11 that'll be fine for Champions League in both of them teams.
Yeah.
So I think that's massive like reason as to why they've both been able to cope so well. I think this year, especially with the amount of fixtures rammed in together and everything, I think that's been huge, and I think that's what's probably let Leicester down a bit. And obviously Vardy's form, but like at the same time, he is 34. Like I don't want to be, as I said, scapegoating him or anything, but he is their main man. When he's not doing the business, really, it is difficult for them. But what would you say overall on Leicester? Would you kind of be more on the sympathetic side or more on the kind of slating them side for kind of like bottling it, I suppose, again?
I'm a little more sympathetic as well. Um, just for the fact that they lost Barnes mostly. Obviously, like you can talk about Vardy, but like it seems to be a consistent thing now that he does the plays unbelievable to January and then just drops off completely. But for Barnes, like he was that player that was creating for Vardy really. And they lost that completely when he went out injured. So, and like as you said, like Maddison hasn't really been able to fill the boots that Barnes has left behind since coming back from his injury. I know there was a bit of separation between the both of them, but yeah, I'd say probably more sympathetic, just kind of like the way you are. I think you covered most of the points there, where like injuries have kind of killed them towards the back end of the season, and I think that's sometimes a bit harder than like Liverpool. All their injuries kind of came around January time. They had their bad stint, and then they had time to they recovered from it. Do you know what I mean? They had like Fabinho. I know Henderson still out, Van Dijk still out, Gomez, Matip, and the rest. Jota now. But they've had their chance to like get the team spirit, find a new 11, and rock on. And that's what they have. Like, where Leicester haven't really had that chance to like pick up momentum. They've had like it all sporadically, people dropping out and dropping in. So I'd say that is a little bit harder to deal with. But yeah, another thing that I saw today on Sky Sports News about Leicester, they've spent like 400 and odd days in the top four since this season and last season. And they're like well and truly top of that list. City were second with like 370. Liverpool were like in the 360s. And then Man United were 171 days in top four. They've gotten the
My
top four the
God.
last two seasons. Because last season they literally
Yeah.
nicked it on the last day. And then this season they've had like from January kind of they've been in the top four. So yeah, that was another mad one. Obviously Leicester need to suss that out. I think it's kind of maybe the same thing 2 seasons in a row. Last year it was Maddison getting injured and Vardy dropping off, and this year it's Barnes getting injured and
Yeah.
Vardy dropping off. So I think they'll do
I think they've
well this
definitely run
time.
out of steam. Like, and another thing as well, like with the Madison and Barnes injuries, mainly Barnes, as you said, they've almost had to change system as well. Like they were playing, they've always played five at the back and then two in midfield, like usually Tielemans and Ndidi. But then rather than playing like a three, like as in two wingers and a striker, they've had to play a 10 behind Iheanacho and Vardy, and like that's just not the same. They don't have the same width,
Yeah,
and like then you don't. And obviously, like Luke Thomas has come in and done unbelievable, and so has Castagna. But at the same time, like Justin was so good for them. Like his connection with Barnes out on the left, and then like Jose Perez, he's good on the right. Like he is good, but like when he's playing as a 10, he's not as kind of. He doesn't have the same kind of like creativity that kind of Madison would give you. Like it's just kind of difficult for them really.
yeah,
But yeah, no, overall, I just agree with everything you said. Really, like it's just a difficult one for Leicester. You kind of feel bad for them, but at the same time, as you said, like it is like with the longest time spent in top four, like it is something that they need to address. Kind of.
yeah. And they play Spurs on the last day, which I mean is probably the hardest fixture out of a lot of them.
Mm.
When you think about a competitive standpoint, like it's the only one that both teams play each other on this list. Um, and I think they should beat Spurs. Spurs are really bad, but I'll get on later why Spurs might have a little
Yeah,
bit of motivation to beat them. So on to next, West Ham in sixth, 62 points, 12 goal difference. I mean, I think
yeah. So they're out
they've
of it.
almost secured the second spot. Okay, they've secured six nearly. They're 3 points ahead of Spurs in seventh. Spurs have nearly double the goal difference. But it depends. Obviously, if they win, it doesn't make a difference. They still stay 3 points ahead of whoever wins in the teams beneath them. But yeah, I mean, they kind of dropped off a little bit as well. And you called it. We were talking about just right before this that time when they lost to Newcastle when Dawson got sent off. That really put the speed bump on their uh form. Really, that really stopped them in their tracks and dampened their form. So, what do you think about West Ham in sixth? They've basically secured it. I don't see them losing their last game, but however, they might.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think I just at the time it was mainly just because I just felt like they would definitely drop points to kind of weaker opposition. Like I always felt like more confident with them, with like a Liverpool or a Chelsea or a City, rather than like a Newcastle or a Southampton. But like that was my and as well. Just the Declan Rice injury was massive for them. But then again, at the same time, I also thought Liverpool would not get top four, and they probably will now. So it
Yeah,
goes both ways. But yeah, like I think West Ham have just been. They had such an uplift when Lingard came in. Like the form he was on was unbelievable. Obviously, it's difficult to keep that up over the course of whatever, like 15, 16 games, whatever he's had now. But I know he had obviously unbelievable numbers, and he still does. Well, like injuries to Antonio as well. He's been really like he's been massive for them this season. I just think it's like I still think he's had a great season. Not Antonio, sorry, West Ham have had a great season.
yeah,
Overall, like players like Rice, Suchek, uh, Sufal, like you can go on and on. There's so many players who've had quality seasons. Cresswell as well. They've had bad injuries, same as Leicester. They don't have the squad to cope with it. Uh, so yeah, it's just difficult for them the last few weeks. But I still think they can look at themselves and like be really proud of the season they've had, and they'll be in Europe as well. Like I think for clubs like West Ham, like not in like a disrespectful way, but they're never going to be in the competition for like winning a title or a Champions League or anything. Obviously, like even getting top four, like that would have been a miracle this season to get ahead of like let's say it's Chelsea who get it at this stage, who are third, like to even get ahead of Liverpool and Leicester, like the squad they have compared to Liverpool and Leicester, like it's nowhere near the level.
yeah,
Even compared to Spurs, like it just shows like just how well they've done to be ahead of teams like that. Um, like I definitely wouldn't have had them above Everton, Spurs, Arsenal, Wolves, and loads of other teams this year. But yeah, no, they've been unreal. I think Europa League would be a great competition for them. Like I feel like the teams in the Premier League, unless it's like a Chelsea or a United, they never really do good in the Europa League. It's usually only like let's say if a Chelsea or something get knocked out in the group stages next year, and then they go into the Europa League. They're the
yeah,
teams who always feel like win it, like what United will probably do this year. It's never really the teams who actually come fifth or sixth. Like if it's a West Ham or Everton or Wolves, even last season, like they never do well. But I think
yeah.
it'd be good for West Ham to have that next season. Just good for the club. Like really, it's like exciting for the fans as well, and hopefully everyone will be back in the stadium to watch. But yeah, no, I think regardless, I think Moyes has done an unreal job, and he deserves to have a bit of backing in the summer. So hopefully they sign a few players.
Well, that's it. I think most of the thing that it kind of brings is obviously it brings more funding than they've gotten previously from their Premier League position, and it also just brings, it's a London club, so I know with some
Yeah,
players, foreign players,
London club
it's
with Europe football,
attractive. Yeah,
European
it's
football.
attractive to move to London, over some of the other cities in England, and they, as you said, they're going to be probably playing. Well, they'll definitely be playing in Europe, because the only way they drop so Spurs could overtake them, but Everton are in 8th place, and the only way that Everton can get ahead of West Ham is if West Ham lose by more than 8 goals, or Everton win by more than 8 goals, or they meet each other in the middle and
Yeah,
West Ham lose by 4 and Everton win by 4, and then they'll be able to overtake. So, I mean, they're going to be playing
no,
European
be a
football, whether
miracle.
it's the Conference League or the Europa League or whatever. I don't understand how it works, this new Conference League thing. But yeah, on to the next team. Spurs, they've had like a proper desperate season. They won the league in November and then they just dropped off. Um, so they're on 59 points with 21 goal difference. So 3 off West Ham, as I said earlier, with quite more goal difference. Obviously a win and a loss to West Ham would take these level on points and more over on goal difference. But they'd have to beat Leicester. So I mean, I don't think they're going to beat Leicester, but let's pretend that they actually have a chance. So this is more than likely, after what Sky Sports put out today, going to be Kane's last game for Spurs. Kind of looks like it after what he said to Neville on the golf course. Don't know if you saw that today.
I did.
Yeah. So yeah, what do you think about this? Obviously, Spurs have had a desperate season. Jose's gotten sacked. They have a young fling as manager. Like, fellas went straight from creche to being a manager. What's your sus on it?
Fella's doing TY work experience
He
as
literally
a Premier
is.
League manager. Now, one thing I just want to say as well, like I saw someone put up today, Spurs sacked Mourinho when they were a week before a cup final and were 2 points off top four. Now they've lost the cup final and they're 7 points off top four. Like, as if that tells the whole story. Like, that takes everything out of context. Like, he was useless at Spurs. Like, all he's done at that club is making things worse. And like, I love Jose. He won us obviously so many titles, like as a Chelsea fan, but he honestly like sent the club in a downward spiral. Like, people looking back now, and like I probably was, to be honest, one of the ones saying about Pochettino. I never thought it would happen, but I was like saying, oh well, he's probably brought them as far as they can go and stuff. But
Yeah.
like, I definitely thought Mourinho. I just thought that was a messy appointment. Like, I thought they might win a League Cup or an FA Cup, but that's it. If you're willing to sacrifice 2 years and just throw your club down the drain and just throw players down the gutter, like Dele Alli, like, it's so predictable. Like Dele Alli, REA, definitely him and REA had a few spots. Like Bale this season, like, you can go on and on. Like, I think
And
Kane's the
Ndombele
only
last
person who
season.
didn't. Yeah. Like, I think Kane's the only player who didn't like hate Mourinho by the end. Yeah, I just want to say that, to be honest. Like, as if this is Ryan Mason's fault. Like, the club
Yeah,
was
no.
a disaster. That is a good squad. Like, as much as people think it's not, that is definitely a good squad. Like there's 7 players there at least that are really good. I think like 7 players in the starting 11. Like, you probably take the centre halves are useless. Probably the centre mids aren't great, but like, besides that, that's a good team. Like, uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I think if I was Kane, like, I'm glad to see Kane going now. Like, not even just as someone who doesn't like Spurs, but just in general, I just think Kane like has to leave. Like he's turning 28 this year. They're never gonna win anything in the next 3 years. No chance. I think Kane's gonna go to Man City, to be honest. I think it's gonna. Like, everyone's talking about like 150 million, and Levy might ask for crazy money, but I almost feel like it might work the other way. Like, I'm not talking about it as if it's less than 100. Like, it'll definitely be like 120, I'd say, at least. But Kane has made it so obvious, like, in the most professional way, because I think he is such like a consummate professional. He's not the kind of person who's gonna like spit his toy out of the pram, like, you know what I mean, throw his toys out of the pram, where he's like, I'm not gonna play. I put in transfer requests and all this. I think he's definitely so professional.
Yeah.
I'm sure he said in the golf course interview, if anyone listening didn't watch it, he obviously said in that, he was saying, we can sit down and have a conversation. Because Gary Neville, I think the words he used were, is a conversation. You're talking about like a changing point in your career? Like, is that going to be a conversation? He was like, yeah, it's going to be a conversation we're going to have, Daniel Levy. I've been at this club for 16 years. That kind of thing. Like, saying it in like the nicest way possible, pretty much, that he wants to go. And like, all the Spurs fans I've seen online and that I've talked to have all said they wouldn't begrudge him a move. Like, they understand. Like,
Yeah.
and that's the kind of sorry state of affairs they're in at the moment. But like, Kane's definitely like a Premier League legend. Like, he's one of the best strikers in the world. Like, I think it's him and Lewandowski, to be honest. Maybe Benzema throw in there is probably the best strikers in the world. Obviously there's a few others as well. Like, I'm not going to list them all off, but I think City are going to be scary if they get him. Like, I don't think he's going to go to United, because I think if you're Kane, you're leaving for trophies. Like, you're not leaving. Like, Kane's not going to go to. I know United are in a good position to win trophies and stuff, especially if they get Sancho, which I think they will. But Kane's not going to go to a project now at 27, turning
Yeah.
28. United hasn't won a title or a Champions League in a long time now, like 7 or 8 or 9 years or whatever it is. City are guaranteeing you titles, especially with him up front. My God, it's a scary thought for everyone else. Like, I think one thing, I know I don't want to talk about just Kane because we're talking about Spurs, but I think as much as like us as Liverpool, Chelsea fans, or other people as United fans, we like to think we're closer to City than we actually are. If Kane goes to City, that league is absolutely wrapped up for at least 3 years. Like, it's
Yeah.
sad, and
Yeah.
probably a few Champions Leagues. But anyway, just talking about Spurs, yeah, I think he's definitely going to go, and you can't begrudge him. I think this is the start of a rebuild at Spurs, and I said this to you the other day. They should do a rebuild like what they did with like what Chelsea did with Lampard. Just, I'm not talking about Ryan Mason. Like, I don't think he's shown anything to deserve the job, but get a young manager in. Like, I've heard about Graham Potter or Scott Parker. Like, I know those names might be laughed at in comparison to Pochettino and Mourinho, but at the end of the day, I'd rather, if I was a Spurs fan, see kind of a young squad be brought through, like almost like what they did with Pochettino a good few years ago, and you had Dele Alli, who was unreal at the time, and other players coming through.
Yeah, well, just one last thing. I agree with everything that you said there, but they didn't exactly sign Pochettino from Real Madrid. Like, he came from Southampton. He got
Exactly.
them to a Champions League final, so I don't think anyone should really turn their nose up to Graham Potter, who I really rate, and Scott Parker, who I rate slightly less, but I really like Graham Potter. But on to the next team, who's level on points with Spurs. So I guess you could say they're tied second or whatever, but they're 8 on goal difference, is Everton. And as a Liverpool fan who prides himself off hating Everton, they just completely fell off. Like, the wheels fell off the wagon. Like, start of the year, they were
You
hammering
said
everyone.
Spurs won the league in November. Everton won the league after 3 games.
Yeah, Everton in September had the bus sorted. Like, they had the bus sorted. They chose the route
Yeah,
around
the parade
Liverpool
was
where
booked.
where the parade was going to be. But yeah, like, the wheels completely fell off the wagon. Like, I think
James
Richarlison,
Rodriguez had a statue after 20 minutes in the first game he played.
yeah, like, I think Richarlison had 7 goals this season. Like,
Yeah,
he's their main striker. Well, I know DCL is, but like
Calvert-Lewin.
but for a long time, Richarlison was, because he was injured. And like, as much as
Yeah.
I hate Everton, I really like Calvert-Lewin. I think he's unbelievable, and I think
Mm.
this Euros he could be the difference for England. But we'll talk about that a different day. Yeah, complete fall off from Everton. Like, they won the "We beat Liverpool at Anfield" trophy for the first time in like 25 years or some shit like that.
Disrespect Everton again.
Yeah, like something like that. It was desperate. So they deserve the disrespect. Like, the stuff that was being accumulated at the start of the season was just astronomical. Like, how good they were. James was unbelievable. All this rubbish. Like, I
I
have
think he
nothing
has been
else.
unreal. He just hasn't played. Like, to be honest, he's just been. It's the same with like the last few years for James. He just has been injured the whole time.
Yeah,
Calvert-Lewin has actually been class. Where Charleston, as you said, is a bit kind of hot and cold, but I still do think he's really good. Like, I think Everton have a class squad. Like, I love Ben Godfrey.
yeah, I like Ben Godfrey as well.
They're like anti-fair. Like, I think it's hard to ask like an Everton team to be expansive when you're basically playing 4 centre halves because you've no fullbacks. Like, Seamus Coleman's about 40 and he's been injured a good bit. Dinier's been injured a lot, so they're playing. Like, Ben Godfrey played a lot of games at right back. Like, they're
Yeah,
just like half the time they actually do a 4 centre backs across the back 4. So it's difficult to play well like that. But no, I do think Everton are good. Like, I don't think like as much as everyone was saying that they're going to get the title, like we all knew that wasn't going to happen. But like I don't know what we really expect from Everton. Like we don't expect as much as you say, oh, eight doesn't sound great. Do we really expect them to finish ahead of like okay, maybe West Ham, but you definitely don't expect them to finish ahead of Spurs, Liverpool, Leicester, Chelsea, and anyone else. Like so, I don't
Yeah.
think this is even a bad season. I think it's just like the way not even the way they were playing. Like, they were playing good, but like this is just the way people genuinely thought they were like at least top four kind of contenders. Like which they were basically expected to be what West Ham were, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah, like they were top four contenders up until not that long ago, and then they, as I said, they just completely fell off. Like Pickford was, they have
Yeah,
had bad injuries. Like Pickford was injured, Decore was injured.
yeah.
You know, as you said, fullbacks were injured. Then James was injured. Calvert-Lewin was injured. So they have had bad injuries, but with the manager that they have and how much money they spend as a club during the transfer window, like they spend money as if they won the playoff. Like they spend playoff winning money. Like when a team comes up from the playoff and they spend 200 million
Yeah.
and go straight back down.
Yeah, like Villa came
Um,
up last year and it's literally spent about 120 million and then just about survived.
yeah, like it's just a thing that happens. But Everton seem to do it every season. They have like billionaire owners. They have like Sheikh Mansour owners, and they just hasn't clicked yet. I'm sure it will. Like they're obviously
It's worth it all. They've got a Minecraft stadium coming.
exactly like they have a 3D replica stadium. So,
Yeah,
but no, they have they're definitely more of an attractive club to go to now with like Ancelotti and all than like when like Tony Hibbert was starting centre back. So they're definitely on the way up, but
it's like 5-4.
like they came like 16th last season, so I mean it's not that bad of a season. They definitely improved, and maybe with a few more signings and a bit of depth, they can maybe challenge top four, or there's still a potential European spot here for them, which wouldn't be a bad season. But
They
that would
need a
mean
good winger, I think. Like I know Richarlison kind of is a winger, but he's more of like a
he's a
like another way Salah's more of like a wide forward. He's not like a winger. Like
yeah
Bernard, like what's that fella Bernard or something like he is
yeah
useless. Like he is such a bad footballer. Like honestly, he's terrible to watch. He
yeah
literally looks like a baby, and he's about 32. But anyway, I think they should if
yeah
they just find a good winger and a few more. But obviously, there's a lot more wrong than that. But I think Everton actually had a good season by like what I
yeah
expected from them overall.
yeah.
He was up next.
Oh, the
Here
the
we go.
Gooners, Banter FC.
Arsenal, yeah.
Well, they could pull one off here, and here's another thing that might motivate Spurs to go ahead and get a result against Leicester. If Spurs lose, okay, and Arsenal win, Arsenal finish the season above Spurs, which is
That would
it's
be so bad for Spurs. Oh my god. Like Arsenal were genuinely relegation contenders until we just handed them a confidence boost on Stevens Day. Like that is so bad for Spurs. Like if that's like I know it means nothing. Like what's the difference between what are they, seventh and ninth or something? Like it's not even
European
that different
football,
really.
the Conference League.
I think Spurs would rather not have European football, to be honest. Like they're not going
Yeah,
to win the Europa League, and it's just a pain, really. Like for a club like Spurs who just want to do good in the league, like
yeah,
they're not going to win anything really,
yeah,
especially with Kane going now. But anyway, yeah, geez, Arsenal, like you don't know where to start really. Like I honestly, like I'm not even saying this to like wind people up or anything, but like right now, I don't even view Arsenal as like a big club. Like the way like a few years ago like when they lose, you're like, oh my god, like Arsenal lost, and then they lose again. You're like, oh my god, like or like when United lose, and it's like for 3 days, social media goes wild because they're actually like a proper big club. And like Arsenal are a big club, obviously, but I just think like last like 10, 15 years, like they're just like you just come to expect it. Like it's just gotten slowly worse and worse. Like there hasn't been one season that was just abysmal, but it's just become like everything is normalized. Like at the start, it's like top four, not getting top four is normal, and then it's kind of like like we're never challenged for the league. We get top four, and then people laugh like the top four trophy. Then it's like we don't get top four for 2 or 3 years. That's kind of normalized. Then it's like well, like where we come eighth normalized, and then like this year up to Christmas it was January. Like we're getting relegated. Like it's normalized.
yeah.
Like it's just I don't know. Like I don't like everyone says Arteta out, Arteta in. To be honest, I don't think Arteta's a particularly good manager, but I don't think he's particularly bad. Like I honestly like unless you're talking about like Pep Guardiola or something like I don't think that much difference a manager would make. Like, I just feel like sacking a manager is the easiest thing. It's like the kind of scapegoating thing to do. And as I said, I'm not saying Arteta's doing a great job, but I just feel like there's so much wrong with that club. Like from the
Yeah,
top down, like the players aren't good enough, the owners aren't good enough. They have a few good young players. Like I love Saka, Smith Rowe. I still love Aubameyang, even though obviously he's been poor this season. Um,
Tierney as
Pepe has
well
shown kind of small improvements. Yeah, Tierney's been unreal. Yeah, Leno's still good on his day. I know he gets a lot of abuse, but
makes a lot of
I
mistakes.
don't know. Like, I'm not saying that Arsenal are like not a big club. I'm just saying they haven't acted like a big club in the last few
Yeah,
years. Like, you know, like, they're just so. And you feel like what I'm trying to say is it's not it's normal now when you see them lose. Like the reaction on social media isn't even crazy the way it was before. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. I mean, like Arsenal genuinely needs 150, 200 million thrown at them, and I don't mean to spend on like Mbappe. I mean to actually spend 30 million, you know, 5 times and like fix their squad, like because it's desperate,
Yeah.
in depth, in any way possible. Like the fact that Xhaka plays football for Arsenal is the line where you put there. The fact that Callum Chambers plays football for Arsenal, another line. Like
Rob
they,
Holding.
yeah, Rob Holden. Like there's just so many players. Like even that fella
Like he
Gabriel.
genuinely
Like
wouldn't start for Burnley. He wouldn't start for Palace. He wouldn't start for Brighton.
no, no. Sure, you'd rather have Nat
Like
Phillips as your
I
75th
think
choice centre back.
Arsenal, yeah, Arsenal has such a good youth system. Like players like Florian Balogun, like he's just signed a 5-year deal, and he's want like there's been so much interest from him from clubs. I think it was Mönchengladbach and a few other German clubs in for him.
Liverpool wanted him
Arsenal
as
have
well at one stage, apparently on loan.
yeah, like Arsenal have a lot of big youth players. Like obviously Saka and Smith Rowe are doing unreal. Like Smith Rowe wasn't really getting a look in until about January,
Yeah.
but
Willock's doing unreal
Saka's
as
been
well, but it's for their own
unbelievable.
club.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Even someone like Willock, yeah. Uh, it's just strange, really. Like, obviously, Guendouzi's not coming back in now. Even with someone like Saliba, like, obviously, him and Arteta have their own issues. Like, I don't really, obviously, none of us really know what's going on there. But
Yeah,
if you have a £30 million centre half who's not kicked the ball for you, like, it's just so strange. Just I could honestly, you could make like a 5-hour podcast alone about what needs to change at Arsenal.
yeah,
I feel like it's
yeah,
definitely not the kind of thing that happens overnight. Anyway, like, it's not like I honestly think 5 great signings doesn't fix Arsenal. They've got so many issues.
yeah. Put a like down below. We'll do an Spurs, Everton, Arsenal roast. And just for
the
three.
last like 10 minutes of this, we're just abusing them teams. But I don't even have anything really against them teams. Like
No,
obviously as a Chelsea fan, I don't like Spurs and Arsenal, but at the same time, like I just think they've just been more Arsenal than anything. Like, they've just been run so poorly. And with Spurs as well, like there's just a lot wrong with them. Just like it's mainly Mourinho with Spurs, to be honest, because I think that is a good Spurs. With Arsenal, I think they still have a lot to do. Like
yeah,
Willian on that money, I think Willian's going to like MLS now. Like, what was that signing? Like I said that this time last year. People watch Willian 3 times a season against Liverpool, United, and in an FA Cup final or something, and they're like, "Oh, he's world class." I'm telling you, if you watch Willian versus Southampton on a Wednesday, and then you watch Willian versus Sevilla in the Champions League the next week on a Tuesday, you just don't rate Willian. Like honestly, he's had about 2 good seasons. Besides that, he's not that great. But anyway, that's
yeah.
we don't want to talk too long about Arsenal.
No, yeah, because like realistically, like I don't really have much against Everton. Like it's just mostly completely bantering them. But them three teams basically do sum up the banter top three. Like I can't think of a better like who's
Yeah,
getting into that top four because those three probably in
at
that
least with Everton,
order.
they're not really like Everton are not really doing bad or good in comparison to what you expect them. Like it's more good than
Yeah,
bad, I'd say. Like coming
yeah.
eighth, like they
Now it
have dropped
is.
off a lot, but overall, if you look at the table, like it's only really West Ham that you think, and even if you that's more at the start of the season, you'd say that. Like if you look at them now, like West Ham definitely have a better team. So I
Yeah,
don't know. Like, I don't think West Ham, but I think Spurs and Arsenal be looking at just as the size of the clubs.
yeah. I think
Like
another thing with
this,
Everton
we
is
could talk forever.
I think another thing with Everton is that I forgot to point out is the fact they only have 4 goal difference. Like every team around them has double digits.
Yeah, that's bad. Like they're so reliant on Calvert-Lewin for goals.
Yeah.
All right, so what do you think's going to happen in the last 3 games then? Obviously Chelsea playing Villa, Liverpool playing Palace, and then Leicester playing Spurs. So what do you think's going to happen?
Yeah, like Micah Richards came out on last night after the Liverpool Burnley game, and he said that he thinks that Chelsea might draw to Villa. Just the fact it's in Villa Stadium, Grealish back, one eye on the Champions League for Chelsea. To be honest, I think any of the teams can drop points. Like there's signs that any of them can. You know, Liverpool have that shaky defense. Leicester just being kind of inconsistent, and then obviously Chelsea with one eye on the Champions League. I think it's going to stay the same for the most part. You know, I think it's going to stay the exact same. Chelsea, Liverpool, Leicester. What do you think?
I think so as well. To be honest, I'd love to give a spicy answer, but I can't really see Liverpool or Chelsea lose, and maybe I think if Chelsea draw and Leicester win, like Leicester still go through. Don't think Chelsea come fifth.
Yep.
I think anything could happen. To be honest, I'll probably, if I had to say, I'd probably say all three teams will win. But at the same time, then there's a part of me that thinks like it's Kane's last game for Spurs potentially, like probably. So he'll want to kind of go out with a bang, and like I could see him definitely scoring one or two. So I don't know. It's impossible to call, to be honest. I am confident enough for Chelsea and Leicester and Liverpool. I mean, I understand what Mikel Rich saying, like they're valid points, but at the same time, I think it's almost good for Chelsea that they have a few big games. Obviously, the FA Cup final they lost, but then that Leicester game in the league was massive. This game is massive, and then the Champions League final is massive. So it's kind of like you're just rolling, and like you're not even really feeling the punches. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of you're obviously suffering in games. Like probably players are physically kind of a bit spent. Obviously Kante had to come off in that game against Leicester, but and like Mount got a few kicks as well. But I think Chelsea, they're kind of just on that kind of run now where it's like, every game is crucial. Like if you lose any game at this stage, you'll mess up your entire season. So I think Chelsea will get over the line. I think they've deserved it over the course of the season. I do think they've deserved it. Like it'd be so unfair to miss out. And at the end of the day, the league is the league. Like there's no such thing as unfair. But I think they would kind of feel so hard done by because they've pretty much been flawless since Tuchel's come in. Like in the league, um they lost to West Brom, they've lost to Arsenal, which is just a bit of a kind of a random loss. That can just happen. And then like those two results weren't like, oh, they went through a bad run of form. They were just freak results. I know they lost to Leicester after in the FA Cup, so maybe you could say it's form, but I just think it would be so harsh. Like they drew against Southampton then, but besides that, I think they've won every game. Like they've won 14, 15 out of the probably 18 maybe that Tuchel's managed. So
yeah, they've been top class.
Yes, I think it would be harsh for Chelsea to miss out, for Tuchel more than anything to miss out. But no, I'm gonna go for Chelsea and Liverpool in fourth, and then Leicester in fifth.
Yeah, me too. So do you have anything to add now?
No, pretty much that. Yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of. We'll obviously do like a podcast after the season ends. After the fact, yeah. And then, yeah, it's nice to see them. We've got the Europa League final on the 26th, Champions League final on the 29th, which is a big one for me. And then a small break, then the Euros on the 11th of June, I think it is. So it's nice kind of, you're coming to the end of the season, but you still got a lot to look forward to. So yeah, I'm pretty much finished unless you've got anything to say.
No, all I have really to say is, that we will be doing loads of content for all the upcoming competitions. So obviously we're doing like a reaction to what we just talked about here after the season's finished, and then as well as the Europa League and Champions League, especially because Adam's a Chelsea fan, we'll have to react to that. And then there'll be plenty of stuff for the Euros. So, if you're interested in that, subscribe to the channel, follow the Spotify, follow on Instagram. They're all basically the same thing. And yeah, thanks for listening, and I hope to see you again.
Thanks very much. Cheers, bye.